Sabiam que agora nós temos uma página no Padrim? E quem gosta do Codex e quiser ajudar pode fazer com apenas R$2? É só entrar na página www.padrim.com.br/lordmons. Bem-vindo a mais uma edição de Blizzard, do seu programa de debate de World of Warcraft. E hoje é com muito orgulho e muito prazer que eu apresento para vocês o primeiro vídeo da semana especial Blizzard Summit, em que eu vou apresentar tudo o que aconteceu nesse super evento que reuniu influenciadores de World of Warcraft do mundo inteiro. E hoje uma entrevista exclusiva com dois desenvolvedores da próxima expansão Battle for Azeroth, que foi possível conversar sobre muitas novidades, sobre muitos sistemas, sobre muitas surpresas que os jogadores vão encontrar na próxima expansão. E atendendo a pedidos, essa entrevista será em inglês com legendas em português. Assim, quem quiser escutar no idioma original vai poder, e quem não souber inglês vai poder acompanhar com as legendas em português aqui no canal. E ainda tem o bônus, porque no final eu vou trazer uma outra entrevista que eu tive a oportunidade de fazer. Essa entrevista foi muito sem noção, porque a gente estava numa sala ali esperando para começar a entrevista com os desenvolvedores, quando de repente, do nada, senta um outro desenvolvedor de World of Warcraft do nosso lado, começa a conversar com a gente e fala: olha, vocês podem me perguntar o que vocês quiserem da próxima expansão, porque eu estou liberado para falar. A gente começou a conversar. Infelizmente, essa entrevista não foi gravada, porque a gente não estava esperando, a gente não estava preparado. Só que a gente conversou sobre 10, 15 minutos ali com ele, sobre vários aspectos, e ele revelou algumas informações que vão gerar muito debate e muita discussão na comunidade de World of Warcraft. E são informações exclusivas, porque ninguém teve a oportunidade de fazer essas perguntas que a gente pôde fazer com esses desenvolvedores. Então se prepare, essa entrevista foi com Johnny Lowe, que é o Senior Concept Art de World of Warcraft, é o artista conceitual da próxima expansão, e o Travis Day, que é o Senior Producer, o produtor de Battle for Azeroth. Então aproveite e espero que vocês gostem dessa entrevista super especial aqui no Codex.
It's like several reasons. Like one of them is to provide like options, right? Just variety. Because I know there's been a lot of fans, but also too internally within the team. Oh, how cool would it be if there are different body types for the races and whatnot? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of one way where we're exploring that option. Another reason why too is just like stuff to kind of help support the story. Mm-hmm. With like certain characters. Like there's like these Conturian guys, like baddies, who are like big dudes, right? And so we wanted to come up with different body types that support the type of characters they are, and the type of character archetypes that they are. Like there's like a big kind of boss dude, you know, the criminal guy, and so like these are kind of ways to do that, you know. So there's like several reasons for that: supporting story, game design, and also just like aesthetic variety for the kids. I think the options are always open for that. Yeah, there's always discussions on it.
Yeah, I think as we move towards it, we'll have to figure it out. But
yeah.
it might be one of the two or both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. At the moment, no decision being made on that. Yeah. Constantly exploring.
Yeah, we just had Skinny Guy. Right? That's actually, I think, what his model was called. Skinny Guy.
Is that like the code name?
Yeah. So, wow, 8x / skinnyguy.ogg. Yeah. No, so we just have Skinny Guy, and the idea really is kind of to his point. It's his aesthetics provides good breakup, visual storytelling of the different types of characters that we have, and so he's kind of our scoundrelly rogue. We've got another one of the bosses, the Freehold dungeon. It looks like Danny DeVito. That's
Yeah.
Not necessarily that he's going to be a playable race, but he just kind of, you take one look at him, and that's what you guys really do a great job on. Is you take one look at him, you get his character.
Yeah, you look at it, you identify who he is.
Yeah.
And it sells the whole fantasy of
and you know, I mean, we're always like exploring different options, but I think if in a world where we do a Coltarian playable race, it'd probably be the bigger guys, because we have a male and a female, and it's like more naturally lending towards that. But we also have like one-off things, so we have like a cat holding animation as well this time around, so that's a fun one that is unique to the Coltarians as well.
Yeah. We've actually been doing a lot more like very specific kind of animations for different characters, so they makes them feel more unique, like Travis was saying, the cat thing, and a whole bunch of other different things.
Like
so
for Lady Priscilla Ashmain, who has her pet cat from one of the early concept images.
Stuff like that kind of makes the characters and the NPCs feel like special and unique.
Yeah. And then when community sees that, they're all going to ask for the toy.
Yes.
Animation all the time.
It's funny too, like that kind of stuff, because like there is so much similarity between community members and our designers, because we get this cat animation, then it's like we have a tool system called anim kitting, where you can basically kit bash, like on these bones I want to use this animation, and on these bones I want to use this animation. An example would be Mountain Goats in Stormheim and Legion. They have this thing they do where they bend down and they eat grass. And so it's a druid spell healing animation playing very small on their mouth. And it's their stun animation playing on the upper half of their body. But and so then it actually, you blend it and it looks like they're eating grass, right? And so people have already started taking like the cat stroking animation and like, well, if you do that mixed with this and they're holding a crate, it looks like they're doing, you kind of combine all these things. Fun and interesting ways. Anyway, sorry, I'm just...
No, but it's actually really interesting. Like I have to use a lot of time in tools like Well Model Viewer that don't really support that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting to actually know that you guys actually pick up different animations for different parts of the body instead of
totally.
the typical thing that we see for machinima and stuff like that.
We had one of my favorite was we didn't have a scrub brush made yet as like an equipable item. And so we had gotten one of our animators, Aguilar, who's our lead animator, he'd made like a swabbing the deck kind of an animation where a guy's down on his knees scrubbing. And so since we didn't have that, we put a piece of cheese. But it's like it's an OG classic piece of cheese, so it kind of looks like a sponge. And it worked perfectly.
Inventive,
and just put a little bubble particle effect on it, we're good.
Are you just going to leave it like that, or?
We replaced it eventually. These guys wouldn't let us get away with that, So I mean, I think one of the things that makes WoW feel uniquely WoW is that it is very labor intensive and very handcrafted. So we kind of start with that as the base layer. So we have 6 islands initially at launch, and these 6 islands have been handcrafted by level designers, figuring out like the different paths, the different spaces of like, this will be a giant cave area, this is going to be the path that goes up the spine of the island, and that comes with a lot of intelligent design. And then we have the painting system that essentially allows us to, we've defined like kits of enemies. So we have like over 200 different enemy types, and they come with different statistics of they prefer to be near a beach, or they prefer to be around, they hate Sarlisk, or whatever that thing is that sets them up as they have a kind of a character unto themselves, along with their own ability sets. And so then those get layered out of different areas of the island. And that gets randomized every time, but again, weighted by these things of what they prefer or where they'd actually appear, what their ecology would be, so it doesn't look like you don't have a clam on the top of a mountain, right? That wouldn't make sense. So you gotta have to seed these things with a little information. And then the last layer of that is that we have the advanced enemy AI. And so with the advanced enemy AI, we have 6 different sets of teams of 3 that kind of represent different core fantasies. Like we've got the swashbuckling pirates with Sneaky Pete as one of the guys that runs around. Then we've got like the Goblin Mech Engineer crew, who's like all goblins with a big tank boss that's like the Shredder. And having the real magic of it comes from these 3 systems layering with each other. So you have the 6 islands, hundreds of enemies, and then 6 different sets of AI combatants that you're going to be going against. And then you have these different random events that can occur that kind of all are combining to make it so hopefully, if we did our jobs right, every time you come to an island you have a separate experience, you make different decisions, and you come out with hopefully a victorious outcome in the face of a new unknown threat. That's the goal. I think it's totally fair to expect that we're going to be giving out gear rewards, Azerite power rewards. It's going to have its own currency that allows you. You guys played already?
Yeah.
Okay. Did anybody point out to you the vendor that's right next to it before you go in?
No.
No, not really.
So there's a vendor there from whom you can acquire items, and it's currently for gold, but it'll be converted over to its own currency system that allows you to increases all healing by 50% for 15 seconds. different kind of one-shot things that are probably way too powerful for the outdoor world, but are allowed on islands. So you can kind of, as you build up your currency, you can buy these one-shot items to like help you do different things on different islands. Like, oh, if I encounter this guy, I want really high resist, so I'm going to buy this resist item, and then I have that. So there's that as well. And then I think it's totally fair, because it's Jeremy Fiesel's system, to expect that there's probably going to be a secret in there, because he's the master of the secrets.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then there's also probably going to be pets rewards. You know, I would imagine
Also,
something in the cosmetic variety. I don't know necessarily if it would be pets or custom transmogs, but that's definitely all in Jeremy's wheelhouse of things he tends to do.
All right, cool.
As you can tell, there's actually a fair amount of autonomy on the design team of like, Jeremy's really good at that kind of stuff, so he's given a lot of leeway
So
to kind of do whatever.
And they have a individual token just for the expedition, or it's going to be a token for?
No, the token is basically an island currency, so it's like a Chuck E. Cheese token, only usable at Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah.
It's like the, it's like the Brothers Gold kind of.
Yes, exactly.
Kind of
Yeah, where they have their own. Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things, and this has actually come up recently, because we had a recent internal playtest where we were actually having network difficulties.
Yeah, that similar thing happened.
Yeah, that similar thing happened to a lot of us, which caused us all to like hit the feedback list with like, what the? So a couple things. One is, I think that definitely there's interest in looking into the deserter system of at least penalizing that player with the interest in mitigating that kind of behavior, because it's degenerate player behavior. The other one is to look at a system where even if you guys, you basically get a completion bonus. If you finish it all the way through, even if you lose, here's a little something. Sorry, you know what I mean? At least, yeah, you didn't win, and sorry, that guy made it so you can't win, but he's being punished. You're still getting some kind of a reward, even if it's not the win reward. So that you don't feel like you're wasting your time. Like if you dropped in the first 5 minutes, it's still worth doing the remaining 10. And the other one is just looking at the overall length and duration of these and making sure that they're tuned appropriately to where if you left in the first 5 minutes of an hour-long match, that would feel pretty terrible.
Sure.
If you left in the first 5 minutes of a 15-minute long match, oh, okay, whatever. You screwed me out of 10 minutes. Not the end of the world. I'm still going to get something. That feels a little bit better as a player. But finding that right balance of what feels right for people, that's what we're going to do during soup tasting on the beta. Yeah, exactly. So I think the problem that Ian was talking about is if I have made a character, I'm level 100 on my character on a PvE server, and then we came out in one of our like 7.2.5, and we introduced 3 new events that are exclusive to PvP servers, and I don't have any characters on a PvP server, I'd be like, what the hell, guys? Like, you're making all this content and I can't participate. And while I may not like World PvP, I would have played that. And so we just kind of go, we can't do that because we don't want to have that kind of player friction. Now in a world where you can opt into that and it's all you have to do is go back to Orgrimmar or Stormwind and swap over, and then you can go participate in this content. Boom, okay, now we can do these kinds of events. We can do things like having airdrops come in periodically, enemy invasions and incursions on existing zones, like kind of the sky's the limit as far as just how much time we want to spend making these events and how complicated we want to make them. But we can do it in a way that doesn't make players feel like they're somehow missing out on content just because of a server choice that they made long ago before this was even available. So that's the goal, at least.
And do you plan to make something for the launch, or there are plans for the future?
We do plan to have things for the launch, definitely. And then I think it's something that's going to be a system that's extensible. We can add content to over the time. One of the things that Ian's really enjoyed from our .5 patches, or interstitial patches between our interstitial content releases between the major content releases, is having the ability to provide more of the evergreen content. So things like updates to holidays, or the micro holidays, or the brawls, or things that will just go into rotation for forever. So this is me guessing because it's not specifically laid out on any plan anywhere, but I would guess that if we came up with additional, hey, let's have a run on the Barrens, or let's have a fight in the Arathi Basin, or let's have the Booty Bay Boogaloo, or whatever that PvP thing would be, that would go into one of those interstitial content releases, one of the .5s.
Okay.
Question about.
I do like Booty Bay Boogaloo, though.
I like that one.
That's an awesome thing.
I'm patenting that. Yeah. So every Heart of Azeroth will be spec specific and time of day specific. No, I'm just kidding. No, so that was already No, I mean, that was one of the cool things about the artifact system, right, is that you got this really powerful class fantasy and you got really in tune with it, but as somebody who plays a paladin who DPSs, heals, and tanks, it's a bit of a grind to try and level up all of your artifact weapons. So I think one of the nice things about this system is it is inherently a little bit more friendly because it is specific to the character, not necessarily your spec. So as you're powering up your Heart of Azeroth, it's going to be viable for all of your specs. It does turn it into a bit more of a, like, you might have more choices on your gear now, because now as your actual talent choices, your Heart of Azeroth, like, mechanical choices are being made on your item slots. And some of those, especially as you get higher in power, may be a little bit more specifically attuned to a certain spec. So there is a world where you want to have 2 different pairs of pants, but I think that's something that we're used to in WoW, especially when you're switching between DPS and a healing spec, for example. I think that's kind of inherently part of the game that we're used to. So yes, I think that in that way it will be much more alt-friendly than Legion was. And I think too, throughout the Legion cycle and throughout all the content releases that came after the initial expansion launch, we did a very good job of introducing a lot of catch-up mechanics that kind of closed that gap. We also, I think one of the bigger ones was the artifact knowledge system initially in Legion, was something that the idea was to kind of pace out the rate at which everybody was gaining their artifact knowledge and their artifact power, and then normalize it so that we had control over catch-up. In the end, I think we ended up in a much better place where it was just automatically granted rather than you having to remember to log in to use a book to start a work order to go pick up your most. I mean, that was just. It seemed like a great idea at the time.
Yeah.
So I think in that way we'll actually be able to tune not only to your character but also to your character at what time in the expansion's life cycle are we, so that we can accelerate or decelerate based on where you are in the overall progression. So we are planning to have a mobile app. I don't know how much we're supposed to be talking about it at this point, but it will be bigger and better than the Legion Companion app, but I don't think we're talking about the specific features yet.
Okay.
But I'd love to. So if I find out that we are allowed to talk about that, I'll talk your ear off about it.
Any update? Just came out. Any updates for the WoW Armory app also?
So. Maybe as part of that, it might be. No, so I think here's what I can say. Right, is during Legion we saw a huge engagement with the Legion Companion app, and we think that it was actually a really great, like, I don't know, classically called the second screen experience or whatever. But it's really that ability to be on the train, in the car, hopefully not driving the car, doing things and interact with our universe while you are not at your computer, right? And trying to extend that universe beyond just sitting at the desk. So I think one of the things that's really successful with that has been the ability to do the missions and send things that really don't require you to be an engine. And I think the other advantage of that is things in the armory, like viewing your character is cool, but I think the guild chat's really even cooler, and it's really that constant connectedness, because I think WoW is just as much about the community as it is about the actual gameplay itself. So those are the kinds of things that when we make an app for WoW, we would want to bring forward if we were to make a new mobile app.
Okay.
This is the last, the next one is the last question.
Oh.
Easily explained. So, did you guys play patch or Counter Release 7.2, the Tomb of Sargeras on the Broken Shore?
Yeah.
And the contributions to the towers?
Yeah.
So the contribution mechanic is essentially, and there will be, I think, Ian talked about, there will be several different types you can donate. Azurite, you can donate straight gold. Kind of think about like how you can buy your extra daily seals or your weekly seals for like an extra item. So we'll have different currencies that you can dump in to contribute, and then you'll get a token reward. So in the same way that you were rewarded for your contribution, both factionally, so you get War Campaign faction, and you'll also get like a small little box of randomized treasure, like you would when you contribute to one of the towers. So that will be what regionally increments, your progress towards the assault. Maybe think of it. It helps to think of it less like the assault aspect of when we fill this bar, we will unlock this content for our faction and our region, and then that will be open for a period of 1 week, and then during that time, the Horde does not have access to it, and the Horde does not have the ability to contribute their resources, and then at the end of that 1 week, the timer will be up, we will lose control of it, we will not be able to be contributing any resources, and now the Horde, their timer starts, and they start contributing. And then once theirs unlocks, they go in. So it's a 4 to 4 phases of progression. And during the time while it's up and active, and you've participated, and you've, say, won the Warfront, there will be outdoor world content in Arathi Basin that's available to you. So it's in the same way that you could do Barret and Hold, I think was the name of the 3-boss raid. Only when you guys had control. That's the same kind of thing here. Except not a raid. So didn't just promise a raid tier.
Okay. So basically, if we have like 100 stacks of cloth from Belfast, I can turn that in for currency. And your motivation to turn it in, because you, as one person of 5 million in your region, probably aren't really going to visibly move the bar. Right. But you'll be rewarded like on a daily or basis of like, hey, your first turn in towards the war campaign gives you some bonus faction, gives you some bonus loot. That's kind of your motivation for participating in this.
And the attack is one-time event, or I can, if the Horde is...
If you're in control, it's repeatable. Yeah, exactly. So it just means that this thing is active right now, and you can do it as many times as you'd like.
And these world events, they are going to work with the world PvP system. That there is a world boss at Arathi Basin. The other faction can attack us when we are going to kill it.
In world PvP, yes. Now, when you are in an active Warfront, you're not in the actual Arathi Basin, but in the overworld content, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Total pleasure, man.
Yeah.
You guys are a blast to talk to.
Hey, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Entrevista super especial, mas não para por aí. Porque eu tive a oportunidade de fazer uma outra entrevista com outro desenvolvedor de World of Warcraft. Antes de começar essa entrevista, a gente estava numa sala onde era possível jogar a Battle for Azeroth, quando de repente, do nada, a gente viu um outro desenvolvedor todo alegre, todo feliz. E quando ele percebeu que nós éramos influenciadores, porque eu estava com outro influenciador da América Latina, o chileno Juan, ele sentou do nosso lado, começou a conversar e falou que a gente podia perguntar o que quisesse para ele da próxima expansão. E a gente começou a conversar, começou a fazer perguntas sobre Battle for Azeroth. Infelizmente, a gente não gravou essa entrevista porque a gente não estava preparado, a gente estava ali esperando para começar outra entrevista. Mas eu tive a oportunidade de fazer 2 perguntas muito importantes que eu tenho certeza que vai gerar muito debate na comunidade. Primeiro eu perguntei qual era o papel do Anduin na aliança. Se o Anduin era, na verdade, o atual líder da aliança, como High King. Porque o título de High King, ele nunca foi um título de liderança, sempre foi um título militar. Era aquela pessoa que comandava os exércitos da aliança, mas não era aquela pessoa que comandava os reinos, não era o líder da aliança, ele comandava os exércitos da aliança. Mas quem está acompanhando as novidades da próxima expansão já percebeu que o Anduin ele assumiu um papel muito mais de liderança. É como se ele estivesse comandando toda a aliança. E ele respondeu que sim, o Anduin é o líder da aliança. Ele não é apenas o High King comandando os exércitos. Ele comanda a aliança em Battle for Azeroth. E eu também tive a oportunidade de perguntar sobre as Sylvanas. Porque se você está vendo o que está acontecendo, as primeiras informações da próxima expansão, a Sylvanas ela está tomando algumas atitudes, ela está fazendo algumas coisas que está deixando muitos jogadores da própria Horda questionando as ações e a motivação das Sylvanas. E eu perguntei, e os outros líderes da Horda? Eles também estavam aceitando as ações das Sylvanas ou estava tendo algum descontentamento, estava tendo algum racha dentro da Horda em relação ao que ela estava fazendo? E ele respondeu que não, que os outros líderes da Horda eles estavam aceitando as ações das Sylvanas porque acreditavam que ela estava tomando aquelas ações porque eles estavam em guerra. E que ela estava fazendo tudo aquilo com o objetivo de ganhar a guerra para a Horda, que era necessário tomar aquelas ações para vencer a batalha, para vencer a guerra, para as futuras gerações da Horda. que no momento não existe nenhuma racha, nenhuma briga dentro da Horda, então ninguém questionando as ações, as atitudes das Sylvanas, do que ela está fazendo nesse momento, no início da guerra. Isso vai gerar um vídeo discutindo exatamente esse assunto, que eu tenho certeza que vocês estão doidos para saber mais sobre essas informações. Mas então, super entrevista com desenvolvedores de World of Warcraft e uma entrevista bônus especial sobre um pouco do lore da expansão. O que vocês acharam da entrevista? Qual resposta vocês acharam mais interessante? Qual que vocês mais gostaram? E qual que vocês odiaram? Vocês odiaram o que eles falaram? Vocês não concordam com nada? Vocês acham que eles têm que voltar atrás? Deixe comentários que estão aqui embaixo, que eu quero saber o que vocês acharam do que foi falado sobre as novidades, sobre as surpresas da próxima expansão. Vocês gostaram do Anduin ser agora o atual líder da aliança? Vocês concordam que os outros líderes da Horda não tem que questionar, eles têm que seguir a Sylvanas e concordam com as ações, com as atitudes que ela está tomando, que a gente descobriu agora no evento de pré-lançamento da próxima expansão? Vocês acham que ela está certa? E vocês acham que os outros líderes estão certos em não falar nada? Deixe comentários aqui embaixo para saber a opinião de vocês sobre o assunto. Codex, muito obrigado por assistir.